Hey there, this is Wythe Marshall from the Stillfleet Studio. We put together a little podcast called Why We Roll, and now we're very proud to be part of the network Podderation. So if you're listening to one of Podderation's other great shows, and you're interested in TTRPGs specifically, that's tabletop role-playing games, you might be interested in our show. Why We Roll is all about how you make TTRPGs, what makes them fun, different kinds of stories you can tell with TTRPGs, and even the business, so the practical advice side. So if any of that sounds appealing, whether you're a GM, you want to design your homebrew game, or you're interested in getting in the industry, why don't you head over to Why We Roll, check us out. We really, really appreciate it, and keep making awesome stuff.
Hi there, I'm Hugh from Podderation. If you like today's show, why not check out Dungeons & Dragonfruits, the bizarre, strange, and queer in every sense of the word D&D podcast. Join 5 friends as they laugh, learn, and adventure their way through the weird, wonderful world of Widdershins, where dragons hatch from trees and have adventures of all forms in every shape and size. Available wherever you can get your podcasts.
Hey, Bandit, me and Fred got a question.
What do you and Fred want?
How come we doing this?
Well, why not?
Well, they said it couldn't be done.
Well, that's the reason, son.
3 movies that have changed your life.
How long have you been a robber?
4'1".
Good Lord. Jolly good. 4'1".
Yes.
Well, that is a long time.
3 movies that have changed your life.
John, I want this material burned. All of it.
Welcome to another Britflix.com podcast. My name is Stuart Wright. And when I put out a teaser clip on Twitter for the 17th of March episode featuring Empire of Lies director Matthew Hope, I chose a segment that raved on about the importance of Commando to 11-year-old Matthew and to his filmmaking journey. As always, you hope it might grab a new listener or 3. But better than that, David Hughes, the author of The Complete Kubrick, retweeted my post, but more than retweet, he tagged the screenwriter of Commando, Steven E De Souza, who, to my surprise, responded with a low-key meme that said, "I'm honoured." As a past guest of the podcast, I got in touch with David and asked if he knew Steven. He said he did, and here we are. Welcome to 3 movies that changed your life, the screenwriter of Commando, Steven E De Souza.
Hello, Stuart. I'm happy to be here virtually. I'm disappointed the company jet was in the shop and you weren't able to fly me over, but perhaps next time.
Next time indeed. Now, given it was Commando that got us here, we're going to spend part 1 of the podcast spending 50 minutes or so touching on the writing of Commando. And after that, we'll discuss 3 movies that have changed your life. Does that sound like what you signed up for?
That sounds like the plan.
When you were assigned Jeff Loeb's original script to rewrite for Arnold Schwarzenegger, what, if any, conversation did you have with him before you proceeded? And or how did you involve Schwarzenegger in the process, if at all?
Well, the story here is kind of interesting and has had several things have been misreported over the years.
Okay, let's set the record straight then.
So what happened here, if I could take you back, we have to do the sound effect, when you do it, it's all blah, 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 calendar pages, leaves falling. Anyway, if we go back to, I guess this had to have been very early 1985, I would say. If not, I could probably dig into like physical hard files and get the actual scoop. But I would say it was either the turn of the year, the very beginning of 1985, perhaps December 84 or January, February of 85. Now that I think about it, it was almost certainly January. Here's why.
Go on.
Barry Diller, who's been a figure in American media for many years, starting at ABC and then at Fox, he had just become the chairman of 20th Century Fox Studios. And he went to a holiday party where he met Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay.
So for the first time, I guess, socially. So he came into the office at 20th Century Fox the following Monday, and he went up to Larry Gordon, who was one of the producers of The Lot, who I've done a lot of work with, done a lot of movies that your fans, and your followers know. And he said, I just ran into Arnold Schwarzenegger at this party over the holidays, and he's incredibly charming and funny, and not remotely what you would expect he is like from the movies we've seen him in, which at that point were basically Terminator and Conan.
That's right, yeah.
That's what he was known for. He had been in Hercules in New York, which nobody saw, and he had been in a movie called Villain, which was kind of like a movie that failed. It was kind of like a live Wile E. Coyote movie where he had no dialogue at all. He was kind of a cartoon character himself. And he said, if you can make a movie, he said, I'm looking at our schedule, Diller is saying to Larry Gordon, I've been brought in here to get more pictures, into the theaters. We've got to get more movies out. And if you can make a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger that costs $10 million or less, I will immediately greenlight it. Because we've got to get pictures made, and we've got a strike coming in May.
Okay.
Writers Guild strike. Which doesn't mean filmmaking stops, but writing stops.
Of course, yeah. We've been there recently.
So immediately, Larry turned to the key people that he had been working with, and I'd been with this unit already for a while. I started out doing television with them, which is where I had met them. I had basically been over at Universal first. If I back this up even further, I was sort of an overnight success. Although that book Outliers that says it takes 10 years.
Yeah, Malcolm Gladwell's book.
All right, so I was published. I was a published writer in high school. I actually sold a funny article to a men's magazine my senior year of high school, and then got in trouble for bringing it to school because it was a similar Playboy called Rogue. Okay. Anyway, now 10 years later, I came to Hollywood, and I was in town. I brought spec scripts, and I arrived on a Saturday. Sunday, I saw an ad. Contestants wanted for game show. I went and applied for the game show on Monday. They said, okay, they make you do a fake version of the test to see if you can do it.
Yeah.
I got on the game show. And so Thursday, I arrived Saturday in Hollywood. Thursday, I went on the game show. I won a car, a color TV, and a stereo.
Well done.
And Friday, I was hired at Universal Studios based on my spec scripts.
No way.
And started working on Monday. I can send you an article that you could put on your website that this was so unusual.
Yeah, totally.
The following week, I was in Variety. Believe it or not, a guy was here 5 days and he's working at the studio. All right. So anyway, that began a 5-year career. I got hired on the $6 Million Man show as a story editor. And over the next 5 years, I worked my way up to a producer and showrunner of Knight Rider.
Okay.
Anyway, my contract was up after 5 years, and Paramount kind of made me a better offer and said, come over to Paramount. And unlike Universal, we do not have a firewall between film and television. You'll have an opportunity to do film here. Okay. So I went over and worked immediately for Larry Gordon doing television. And then after I did this television, it was one of Patrick Swayze's first jobs. It was called Renegades. It was kind of like 21 Jump Street before 21 Jump Street, like young cops who could work undercover in high school. So that was written under the very trying circumstances, ahead of the camera, all kinds of problems. So after that, Larry Gordon said, listen, we have this other project. And I had a reputation then of being able to juggle action and comedy. And that was 48 Hours. The script had been in development for about 8 or 9 years with various writers and drafts. But I did a draft that it got greenlit and it was a mix of comedy and basically started my career. As well as Eddie Murphy's. Anyway, so now part of this group and on the lot, Larry's had Joel Silver and Lloyd Levin and Mike Levy, who were executives in his group in Gordon's company, and I, the four of us, and we were given 5 scripts that had been languishing on the shelves at Fox and hadn't been made. They had been sitting there for relatively from 18 months to like 4 or 5 years. They hadn't gotten made for one reason or the other. And we read them overnight. And the next day, everybody agreed that the one that was closest to possibly being a vehicle for Schwarzenegger was a script called Commando by Loeb and Weissman. Now, there's a misconception that Arnold had turned this down And then when he said, I'll look at the rewrite and consider it, no, it had never been sent to Arnold at all, probably because at that time, the character was Israeli.
Yeah, that's what I was reading.
Was kind of a stretch for Arnold.
Yeah.
And it was a former Mossad agent who was living in the United States with his wife and child. And the character was more of a realistic person who might work in an espionage field, not a superhuman physics. So, for example, the way the villains approached him was more like of kind of a mind game, trying to break down his will, sort of like, I guess, like trying to think of an example of a different film, like Cape Fear.
Okay,
They're showing up, they're driving by his house, they're at his workplace, and they keep saying, we're going to and keep threatening him.
So they let him know he's been found kind of thing without.
Yeah. So, and then right away with Arnold Schwarzenegger, the first time characters would want to have a little conversation with him at a coffee shop, he'd turn over the table and beat them to death with one of the chairs. That does not work with Arnold. So everybody agreed that was it. And Larry said, all right, great, terrific. When you called this morning and said this was the one, I already set it up. You've got a meeting with Arnold Schwarzenegger today at 1:30. And this is like 9:30 in the morning. And go, wait, what Larry, this is the thing that we think works, but come on, Steve, you can do it. Because remember, in television, we would break story really quickly. Like you and I, if we're working in television, and we say, all right, we need a Christmas themed adventure. And we start to be okay. Guy dressed as Santa Claus robs a store. Or someone puts a bomb in the fake reindeer on the roof of the jewelry store. I mean, you start spitballing, right? Mm-hmm. And you do it very quickly. He says, "Look, it's 9:30. You read the script. We can't let him read the script. We've got to pitch him a better version of the movie." So at 1:00, I'm hurtling across town in Joel Silver's car, and my mind is still spinning on, how much of what I've thought about. I had some ideas. Can I tell him? So we go over to his office, and he has some memorabilia from his, bodybuilding, and he's got the Conan poster, and he's got the poster for Terminator, and we all have photographs. Like here's my desk. Okay, so I've got a photograph here of here's a wedding photograph of me and my lovely wife.
Okay,
I'll knock over my television if I show you a picture of my children or grandchildren. But you have pictures on your desk kind of facing you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Arnold has pictures on his desk facing him, but there's one picture that's sitting there opposite the chair any guest will sit on. And it's his father in a Wehrmacht uniform with a German Shepherd on a leash. And the Shepherd is kind of like coming at the camera with his mouth open. So I know right away that almost everybody who sat in that chair in 1985 had a parent who served in the armed forces in World War II.
Right.
So I know why that is there. It's his head game. If you've ever seen the movie Pumping Iron, okay, you see how he does a head game on Lou Ferrigno.
Yes.
Lou Ferrigno was much bigger, much better built, and really the contender for Mr. Universe. But Arnold, but he admired Arnold, right? And Arnold head fakes him. He sits down with the parents. He says, "Well, what did you feed this guy? He should get big. Was he a good boy?" And the whole conversation with the parents, he reduces Lou Ferrigno to a child sitting there with his hero, and that's why he won the head game. So I realized this is a head game. So I said, "This is amazing. I have a picture just like that on my desk, only my father's in a different uniform." so it got a laugh, and it broke the ice.
Nice one.
All right. So basically, I now told him an abbreviated version of the movie, skipping a lot of stuff because I hadn't worked a lot.
Is this where you're acting out the scenes of the script to him? You're being Arnold Schwarzenegger, as it were.
Exactly. I said, all right, we open it up. 3 weird murders. Like the first one, there's a guy hears the noise of the garbage truck. Oh my God, I forgot to put the trash out. Probably you've done that. I've done that, Arnold. He runs down there. He says, "I thought you'd miss me. Don't worry, we won't." And I guess I'm putting this in your terms, the bin man. Bin man. And then the next one is the guy goes to buy a car and he says, "You want to take it for a test drive?" "Sure, right now." And he drives over the salesman, crashes through the building, goes out. And so we have these mysterious murders. We don't know what they mean. And then we cut to you, and you're in retirement. You've left the Army with your daughter. Now, the original script had a wife and daughter, and we knew Arnold was not be comfortable doing love scene stuff. So we had just a daughter. So I asked the whole movie out for him, not in great detail because I hadn't thought of everything. But I remember at one point, and then you say to him, he said, "Remember, Sully, when I said I'm going to kill you last? I lied." So now I got it. I realized, I accidentally slipped into my Arnold Schwarzenegger, two cocktails in party imitation. So he gave me a stern look. Okay. And I go, "It's okay, Arnold. I do all the greats. I can do Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart for you next." So anyway, I act out as much of the movie as I knew in my mind at this time. And finally, he stands up and says, "I like this picture. I'm not a robot from the future, a caveman from the past. I'm wearing clothes. It's a part John Wayne could play. I do this picture." Shake hands all around. Get back in the car. Joel Silver has a 1985 car telephone, which at that time was the same as a ship-to-shore radio. There was no dedicated cell phone system. So when you made a phone call from a car phone then, you got the San Pedro Marine operator. "What is your emergency?" "No, we're not seeking. We're a car. Can you transfer us to this landline?" So they transfer us to Larry Gordon's office. "Great, we'll be ready." So now let's see, it's 1:30. It was Arnold for an hour. So I guess it's around 3:00, 3:15. We get back to Fox. Larry has one of the head of physical production there and a stenographer and the rest of the team that had read all the scripts.
Yeah.
And says, "Tell us what you told Arnold, but do it the way we break story in television." So where you're breaking story in television, you want to have the very first document be of use. So rather than just tell the story, by this time I've been working in television and motion pictures in Hollywood in the system for 7 years.
Yeah.
So this time what I did not say to Arnold, I say the opening scene, several mysterious murders. They could be on the back lot. They're more likely in the real world. This is 5 pages overall.
Mm.
Next, we cut to Arnold, a title sequence. Arnold in retirement with his daughter, teaching her karate, chopping firewood, making a pizza at the petting zoo, fishing, whatever. 2 or 3 pages, title sequence.
Mm.
Next, General Kirby comes to see them, surprises them. So I basically tell the whole story. When I get done and I get to the end, Larry Gordon says to the stenographer, "How many pages is that overall?" And he's got a calculator. He says, "It's 105 pages. Larry says, "Perfect. Steve, start writing the script. Do not change any sets without telling the head of production who has written this down, because they are going to begin to build the sets." He says, "We're going to have a ballpark budget by the end of the day, and we'll start constructing the sets immediately because there's a Writers Guild strike coming and writing has to stop." Yeah. So I did the first draft of the.
Can I just recap here just for a second, Stephen? So you're just saying to me that you had a weekend with your peers to review which was the best script that you thought would be for Schwarzenegger. The Monday morning, you turn up, you go, "We found one," and they go, "Right, have lunch with Arnie then," and then by 5:00, you've been told write the script, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. But this is a combination of working at television speed, which we all had.
Okay.
And obviously, as I was reading the script over the weekend, I'm writing in it.
Mm.
This doesn't work. This works. Like, for example, one thing I don't know, Loeb Weissman, I don't know what state they were born in America.
Right.
But they had in the script that when he needed weapons in the story at a certain, which it was much later, the wife and daughter weren't kidnapped till into the page around page 40. Not one. But when he finally had to gear up, they had him go to the supermarket like Reese in Terminator and get household items and manufacture weapons. And I'm going, this is America. He can go to a store.
Yeah,
you know, and get all the weapons you want, you know. So that's one of the things.
As a kid, that was he was like, there is nowhere in the UK you could ram raid.
No, but yeah, exactly. So and that was an example. And you know, in a regular movie, if you want to stop somebody from making a phone call, you yank the wire out of the wall.
Yeah.
But with Arnold, you got to pick up the whole phone booth, you know. So when I was reading the script, I already had many thoughts that when they said we're going to see Arnold in a few hours, I wasn't at a completely cold start. I had enough ideas to like fake it.
How normal is it then for the writer to be so closely involved with that? Because that was about enticing Schwarzenegger to do it, wasn't it, really, for you to go and pitch the story in that?
It's not that common, but I was an unusual case in that by the time I was writing motion pictures, I had been established as a television producer.
Got you.
And it's not like a Broadway producer. You don't raise money, you know, for the production. The studios, you know, stockholders, the studio has money. But I knew how much time it takes to, if I write something, I know this is an easy scene to film. This is a hard scene to film.
Got you.
I know that 105 pages is the right length for like an action film. And I also know etiquette on the set. In other words, if I'm on the set and an actor comes up to me and says, "What's my motivation?" I'm going to say, "Talk to the director." You know, so
you kind of got the creative and the pragmatic working together.
Yeah. So I'm probably more in the front office, and I'm in post production and pre production much more because I've worn that hat, and I've also produced some of the movies I've written as well.
Got you.
Anyway. Now they say, write the script. We got to get ahead of the Writers Guild strike. So I'm writing the script, and I said, listen, you know what? We're on such a tight schedule now. I think I did the first draft of this script in about 2 weeks. And what I did was, because we're fighting the clock and you work in television, is the first draft I did was just about, it was pretty ragged, but it was about the physical production.
Yeah.
A lot of the dialogue was just dialogue to make the scene clear.
Yeah.
The best jokes weren't there. You know what I mean? And in some places, I would say, I even would skip and say, we're going to kill people. We're going to have 5 pages where we kill people.
Yeah.
And there were 5 pages blank. You know what I mean? So it was not a complete screenplay, but it was enough to start location scouting and building sets. And while those people are doing that, I'm now filling out the stuff that was thin.
Got you.
So I would say in about 3 weeks, we had a good first draft. There really was not a lot of the first script that could be recycled. It wasn't like pages 1 to 10 because the character was so different.
Of course,
but the basic idea that a special forces operator is being blackmailed into assassinating someone, well, that basic idea was still there. So now I turn the script in. And can I just say though, the amount of energy that must have been sort of revving up, it comes, thinking about it now, obviously with the benefit of being able to see the movie, is the energy that's fueling you guys to get this done quickly is self-evident in the film almost. The film doesn't stop. You know, the film is... No. It's definitely true because it came together so quickly.
Yeah.
Anyhow, they're like scouting locations. They're casting, and one of the things I've done in the past and work is I can write a script out of order. The first time I realized this was strange, I've never had writer's block. So, for example, let's say I was doing a rom-com, which is not something I would normally do.
Right.
But in a rom-com, the boy and girl have a cute meet, they have a couple of dates, and they get married. So I might be writing a rom-com. I may have figured out all kinds of material. I still haven't quite figured out how they meet. Do they have a fender bender with their car? Do they get stuck in an elevator together?
Right.
Are they co-workers? I can start writing the movie and skip that scene and come back to it later rather than sitting there looking at the blank page. So I've never been stuck. So I'm sort of writing the movie, you know, sort of out of order.
Yeah.
And one of the first things I do in situations like this is the casting people will say, we got to start casting this. We know we have Arnold. What about the other people? So one of the first scenes I wrote was the scenes involving the stewardess, because they had to cast that person. They didn't know who that was.
Of course.
So I wrote 2 scenes for her, which pretty much survived intact through the movie. They got better, but that was so casting we could begin. I wrote a scene for the villain so they could cast the villain and so on. So anyway, after about 3 weeks, we have a rough draft. We got started. The movie gets cast, and we realize the Writers Guild strike starts May 4th or 5th at 5 p.m. And I said, listen, we are cutting it so close now because I turned in the first draft and they asked for changes. This is too expensive. Can we do this? The location has changed for this, that, or the other thing. And I'm doing the last changes. And I said, listen, I'm going to work at home because I don't even have 45 minutes to drive to the studio.
Right.
So this week I'm at home every day. Send a messenger to my house to pick up the script, to go to the Writers Guild, to be there at 5 o'clock, to be sealed.
Yeah, because 1985, we're talking physical scripts, aren't we? We're not sending PDFs anywhere, are we?
Well, the fax machine had been invented, but
okay.
That's pretty fun. All right, so I'm doing, and I have memos from the different people, like this different department heads, this, that, and the other thing. So I'm improving it aesthetically, but I'm also responding to like very mundane things that have to be changed. We know this scene has moved to that set. It's really like homework. So I say, send a messenger over around midday. So now I'm doing this and I'm falling behind. And the guy's there and they say, "Has you left your house yet?" No, we're okay. So now I'm finally done and it's like 3:45 and I press print and it's May 5th, 1985. And I have a dot matrix printer. And now the first page, the title page prints, and it goes, and I go, wait a minute here. Okay. Well, that's just the title page, and now a real page is even slower.
Yeah.
Now I'm going there, I'm timing, okay, it's taken X number of seconds per page. The 105-page script is not going to come out of my dot matrix printer until like 5:30 p.m. I am so effed. So I don't know what to do. And I'm in a panic now. And who do I call? What do I do? I have a brainstorm. I call the Writers Guild. And this is the days when you had bulletin boards. There wasn't the art internet we have now. People. So I called the Writers Guild and said, "Do you have a bulletin board?" They don't even know what I'm talking about. Whoever answers the phone. So I say, "Listen, can you give me the accounting department?" I say, "Listen, can you explain to the people in the strike office that computer files have a day and date baked into them?" "Sure, but why am I talking to the strike office?" "Hang on, I'll get back to you." Then I called the legal department and said, "You're aware that a computer created document can have a day and date baked into it, right? Would it be possible to submit the script for the strike registration on can I send in on a bulletin board?" "We don't have a bulletin board." "Could I send a floppy disk?" So they think about it for a minute, and then it's a three-way call: the strike office, the accounting office, and the legal department, and they say, yes, that would count. So I say, great. So I think 4:30, and I'm like, if traffic isn't bad, this guy can make it. So I now save it to a floppy, put it in an envelope, give it to this guy, and say, look, get a ticket, just get there in time. So he got to the Writers Guild with 2 minutes to spare, and this was the first script that was ever registered at the Writers Guild electronically, because I could not have printed it in time. All right, so now the movie starts filming. That's fine. And a few days later, I get a phone call from the producer, Joel Silver. He says, listen, can we film the scenes at your house? I go, what? Is this like a student film? He says, why? He says, well, you wrote this opening scene where the garbage man, the bin man, whacked this guy.
Yeah.
They've been rehearsing, driving a garbage truck as a getaway truck in the parking lot of the studio. And it's this slow behemoth. They really can't make a quick getaway. It takes a month to make a K-turn. And I remember Joel saying to me, you live on a cul-de-sac with this long driveway. And I go, yes, that's the inspiration for the scene, because I'm the guy that always forgets to put the bins out and has to run down the driveway at the last minute. He says, well, we want to film it at your house. I go, okay. He says, of course, for insurance purposes and legal reasons, we have to pay you a rental fee. I go, okay. I would figured it would be free. So I actually got, like a stranger, they paid me $2,500 to film at my house, but it gets better. They said, while we're there, we want to film the Vietnam flashback in your backyard. Now, this is where you say, what Vietnam flashback?
Yes.
At one point in the story, right before the villains attack him, and after General Kirby has told him his old unit is being murdered, he stopped and looked at some photographs. And in fact, I think at one point in the film, you can see there's photographs on a mantle. So he looks at the photographs of his old unit, and it went into a black and white memory. I'm very artful when I'm typing this, that it was black and white photographs that were slightly animated, like, one of these documentaries about like the Civil War, like click, click, click. And I had a very tropical backyard at that time in this house. The same house as in the movie, which was my house at that time, had a very tropical with a lot of tropical plants. So they took still photographs of Arnold and the guys that got whacked, in milk combat uniforms, as if they were in Vietnam. But as it turned out, after a few days of filming, they changed out the actor who played Bennett.
Oh, okay.
Right. And so therefore these photographs could not be used because there's a guy in the still photographs who's not in the movie. So the only scene filmed in my house is the whacking in the driveway.
Thank you for that amazing story about how Commando came together. One broader question I wanted to ask for the screenwriters listening in, now knowing, like, obviously you were front of house, you were back of house doing the writing, you that producer experience and showrunner experience obviously sort of makes you have many hats and stuff in terms of, and I guess a lot more agency than maybe a lot of writers might be in a similar position. But what are key lessons learned from studio rewrites that you could pass on to writers learning their craft or those about to embark on a similar opportunity?
Well, I would say that a lot of people go into a rewrite without a plan or a design, and they'll just say, okay, can I make this dialogue better? Can I describe this room better? And it's basically kind of tinkering around the edges. I would say it's akin to decorating. If you would compare, let's say there's intellectual property and there's physical property. So if we were remodeling a house, right? If you make the analogy like you're doing a remodel of a house, too much screenwriting, people are fixated on what kind of knobs are on the cabinets in the kitchen. What color is the refrigerator? Do the curtains match the carpet? You really need to think about the underlying construction. Is this a weight-bearing wall? How many rooms are in the house? And a lot of people, when they rewrite, they get lost in the superficial surface things when it's kind of underlying things that have to be addressed. So in this particular case, when I approached the script, the first thought was, we have Arnold Schwarzenegger, not your average actor. So physical things this guy has to do have to be, unusual, staggering stunts. Now, I had worked on this TV show, The $6 Million Man, the first show I ever worked on. So I already had a mindset that on that show, you'd always show, on that show, The $6 Million Man, the rule was that every act between commercials, every 15 minutes of the show, you had to show a $6 Million Man stunt. But we could not always afford to have him pick up a car, or jump over a house. So sometimes the stunt would be something more mundane, like plausible, like ripping the door off, things like that. It was very easy for me to invent things for Arnold to do that were preposterous, but not impossible. So I had a head start there. I knew that I had to contrive a way to get the kidnapping very early in the movie. In the script I was given, it was very late. It was in the 40s. That it's America, he had access to weaponry, so forth and so on. And knowing the geography of California, the idea that the dictator could be in exile right offshore on one of the islands.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you really can't own any of these islands anymore. But in the past, some of them were creative license.
Yeah,
In the past, individual people have owned some of these islands.
Of course.
The plan I had was broad and sweeping, and it was about the basic underlying construction, even though the basic idea of the thing stayed the same. This last minute switch on Bennett is one of the reasons why Bennett is kind of out of shape. He replaced another actor, and had we called that actor early on, he would have been in shape. But when we said, come do the movie, he's down in Australia throwing shrimp on the Barbie and knocking back Fosters. So we didn't have time to get in the shape we know him from the Road Warrior.
Yeah.
So that's why he's dressed that way to get away with showing he's not. And that's why Arnold's arm gets cut. That's why Arnold gets wounded in the final knife fight. So that with his right arm out of action, he's a more plausible equal.
Yeah, it's a bit of a
for Bennett. So that's a decision that was made on the fly. Another decision that was made on the fly was now originally, if you look at the movie again, you'll see that Bill Paxton, who has a small part, at one point they're flying in the plane and they get a message: attention, unidentified aircraft. Attention, unidentified aircraft. You are flying over the San Pedro Marine gunnery range.
Yeah.
This is a real thing. San Pedro Island, which is like one of 4 or 5 islands right off the shore. Catalina is the best one known, which has people living on it. Was used by the Navy and the Marines as for war games. So they would routinely have the Marines land on this island, and they would have military exercises with the Navy, firing shells to targets on the island. And the island had big X's for targets. And the island, we've all seen Saving Private Ryan. The island had barbed wire and bollards, concrete bollards on this island. So it's all ready for military maneuvers.
Yeah.
So one of my big ideas in brainstorming was that the end of the movie should be on a battlefield. So as originally written, and you'll notice that in the movie, when they kidnap the daughter, they arrive at the guy's private island.
That's right.
On a yacht. But you see there's a couple of speedboats on the same dock. So as originally written, when Arnold finally shows up on the island and Bennett grabs the girl, he grabbed the girl and he ran down and he got on a speedboat to make an escape. Arnold comes along a bit later, just a few seconds too late, and gets in another speedboat and gives chase. As they're chasing, Arnold takes careful aim. He's Arnold, and he severs the fuel line of the boat he's following with his daughter and his enemy. Now this boat is dying. Guy looks around. I'll stop at that island. Arnold pulls on the same island. We've already established that scene. He says, you are flying over a restricted area, San Pedro Marine operator. As we say, Chekhov's gun. Right? Get that up. So now Arnold gets out to fight him, but all of a sudden we cut back to Bill Paxton, ready to begin attack, ready to begin military action, and now they start the war games and they're shooting. So now they're on in the surf in Saving Private Ryan, having a knife fight, and bombs are going off. So that was the original and perfect topping for this movie about 2 war veterans.
Yeah.
Now I'm in Canada at this point doing a location scout for The Running Man.
Okay.
Right, because I've already pitched that movie to Arnold. It's the next one teed up.
Right, got you.
And I get a phone call. I'm about to leave my hotel room to go to a location scout. And Joel Silver says, listen, I need you to rewrite the last scene of the movie. Why? Because it's not on a beach anymore. What? Why? He says, our director, Mark Lester, saw a sneak preview of this Stallone movie called Rambo. And in this movie, Stallone kills 10 zillion people. And so Mark comes back from the screening with a bee in his bonnet. We got to kill more people than Sly, because Arnold and Sly, they like to compete. So he now decided that, despite what you wrote, if you remember, when they come to kidnap the daughter, the villains show up with about 8 or 9 guys.
That's right. Yeah.
Kind of a multicultural team of mercenaries.
Yeah.
Who are the bodyguards for this deposed dictator who's living on American soil on an island. And his house, by the way, which we pretend is on the island, is the same house that the villain in Beverly Hills Cop lives in. It's Harold Lloyd's old mansion. So I had written he has like a dozen bodyguards that he has. Now, to kill people, somehow Mark Lester decided the guy brought his entire army. How, we don't know. So this has led to confusion in the audience. They think that Arnold flies to South America. No, he doesn't. He never leaves the United States. But the plane. So anyway, so I said, anyway, so he spent so much time killing so many guys who are working for the villain that we're out of money, and we can't do that scene as you wrote it. I go, okay, where does it take place now? He says, in a basement. I go, in a basement? He says, yeah, and we're filming this tomorrow. I need you to dictate the scene right now to Emily. I'm putting her on the phone. And the basement is the basement of this building, the actual basement of the 20th Century Fox building that's been there since the 1920s. So this is before cell phones, right? So they get like super long extension cords, and she goes down in the basement and starts describing it to me. Okay, there's a catwalk and there's stairs, there's electrical generators.
Sorry to stop you there, Stephen, but so you're literally you've been told you need to rewrite a scene, and then someone's passed the phone and say, start rewriting the scene now from your end.
First, what I do when I work at an action scene, when I'm writing, I'll often draw a floor plan.
Oh, okay, okay.
Geography, right? So she's describing this room to me, and I'm writing it down and drawing a sketch so I can rework the action scene that's already written to take place in the basement instead of on a beach.
Got you.
And now I'm thinking of how do we kill him? Because it was a clever killing on the beach, using, with the clever James Bond, Arnold Schwarzenegger type of lines. So at one point he said there's an electrical equipment. So I said, okay, we can kill him that way. And I wrote in that he gets thrown into the electrical thing. And then there was a thing called, I said, watch that first step. I figured we could break his neck. So they end up using all three. In other words, at one point where he gets thrown into the electrical generator, that was an alternative way to kill him, which I wrote. We could kill him this way. But everybody liked the one, let off some steam, Bennett, which people have said to me, I heard that was an ad lib. Yeah, right. On the set, somebody said, let off some steam, Bennett. And somehow, in no seconds at all, they had a fake torso with a pipe that could inject steam. Come on, these things are pre-planned. So anyway, I had a pass on location that day. I didn't go, and I stayed I had my laptop with me, and I wrote the new version of the scene that is in the movie you see now. Amazing. Instead of the far better scene that would have been on the island. What bothers me when you see the movie is the island. The original intended ending is so clearly set up when Bill Paxton has the conversation. With Ray Dawn Chong about you're flying over a restricted area, and we cut to a naval vessel where they were looking through binoculars and getting ready. So that was one of the
got you. Well, look, movie. we should move into 3 movies that changed your life. Are you ready for this?
Yeah. One more thing I have to say: the other misconception I hear all the time is that there was a Commando 2 script. No, the Commando that Die Hard was the Commando 2 script recycled. No, that is also a myth. There's no connection between the as yet unfilmed Commando 2 and Die Hard. What happened was my thinking for Commando 2, which we wrote almost immediately, and now there's noises that might get made.
Yeah, they announced in March, didn't they? There was
they said so. Whether they're going back to the script that I did, that Frank Darabont was going to direct and made some changes in, or whether it's a fresh start, I don't know. But in any event, my thinking at that time was, if the events in Commando had actually happened, Arnold would have been a demi-celebrity because of all the destruction he had brought, downfall of the dictator. And so he said that between Commando 1 and 2, he had gone into private practice as a security consultant. And in Commando 2, he is hired by a multinational corporation to make their headquarters building impregnable and to train all their security people on how to evade kidnappers and be a getaway driver. So he builds up in that movie an impregnable building and an irresistible force of security guys only to discover that his employer is actually an arms dealer. He gets framed for murder and arms dealing, and his daughter and Ray Dawn Chong, reappearing again, are kidnapped and held hostage in the building. He's made impregnable, defended building, by the people he trained, and plus the robots and laser beams and stuff. So it was Arnold trying to break into a building he had designed to be impregnable, was Commando 2. And somehow in people's minds that became Bruce Willis. There was no connection. And Die Hard was based on a novel with the same premise of the building. All right, 3 movies.
Okay, so for those that haven't heard this before, the rules are simple. Steven's given me 3 movies. We'll do them in the order that he's given me. And every time we hear this sound, that means that 5 minutes are up. We move on to the next film for discussion. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
All right. So first up, we have John Huston's 1948 tragedy western adventure, The Treasure of Sierra Madre, starring Huston's father, Walter Huston, and Humphrey Bogart as one of 2 down-on-the-luck Americans in 1920s Mexico in search of gold. Did you know this was the first American film to be made almost entirely on location outside the US?
Well, I know that it was filmed outside of the U.S. I'm not sure if it's the first American film.
So then how did this film impact you as a 5-year-old?
Let me just correct that. I'm pretty sure that a silent picture whose name escapes me right now, it might have been The Silent Bird of Paradise, was filmed entirely in Hawaii or something.
Okay.
This might be the first talkie. Anyway, at this time, I saw this movie on its first re-release, which was in 1955. It was a double feature with Key Largo. I know that now by having looked it up, because I knew I could not have seen the movie when it was first released, because I was literally like in swaddling clothes. So at this time, I had obviously been taken to the movie. I think I was 5 or 6, so I'd been to some Disney movies in movie theaters. But the 2 attempts to my father taking me to a movie that wasn't a Disney movie had been disastrous. One was Creature from the Black Lagoon, where the minute the creature appeared, I ran out of the movie theater into traffic. And my father had to take, and there's a scene where the monster goes to, there's a bath escape. They go down to the water, and the monster comes towards the land, opens its mouth, and swallows the camera.
Yeah.
And then
the iconic scene.
Right. The Greatest Show on Earth, which is the Spielberg seminal movie.
Yeah.
I saw it at the same movie theater that they show in the movie that Spielberg made, the Fabelmans, exact same theater, because it was a road show. And again, a lion came towards I ran out. So I did not have a good history with live action movies. So my parents said, we're going to go see this movie. And I'm already ready. Is it a cartoon? I'm a little nervous. No, yeah. And he says, they say, it's a cowboy movie. You'll like it. So now I went to the movie, and I remember being frustrated that there's all this talking. This is not remotely a cowboy movie at all.
There's no guns.
I'm bored to death, but at least I'm not scared. And then I guess probably about maybe 30 minutes into the movie, they're on a train, and the train gets attacked by bandits. Finally, I'm interested. And from that point on, I was engrossed, because now there's bad guys, and there's gunfights, and there are horses. So what I remember distinctly, and why this sticks in my mind, is I got so engrossed in a movie that wasn't a cartoon.
Yeah.
I didn't run screaming out of the theater like my 2 previous live action movies. But this is where it sticks in my mind as a seminal film. As we left the movie theater, and I don't think we stayed for the other movie. I don't remember seeing the other movie at all. I think I was a little kid at 5 years old. I don't think I could last 4 hours. I go, I can't believe that after all that, the gold blew away, and you could see the gold. And I had an argument with my parents. I remember the movie in color, and they're saying, no, it wasn't in color. I said, I could see the gold dust and the gold hat on the bad guy, because they called him Gold Hat. Remember?
Yeah.
Right before they execute me, can I put my hat back on? He says. So the fact that I was so into the movie that in my memory of the movie, it was color. It just showed the power of film, the power of imagination.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel this was a seminal movie for me, more so than the one I ran out of.
Indeed,
I stayed the course, and it sucked me in to the movie world to such a degree. I took a unique memory away from it that probably most people in the audience did not have, unless they were on psychedelics. It was too early for that.
Yeah, because in a way, it's quite the existential movie, isn't it? Because it's not about win. There's no win, is there really? This is about the kind of, for a 5-year-old to watch a film about people who are just failing and losing,
Yeah.
and the desperation of man.
Well, I don't know if that all got through to me, but what
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but once there was violence, once there was the gunfight on the train with the bandits, I was hooked and so engrossed into it that it was in color to me.
I mean, I was reading. John Huston said that of his dad's Oscar-winning performance, that it was the finest piece of acting of any of his films. I mean, it's a wonderful movie, absolutely wonderful movie. And there goes 5 minutes. Right then, moving swiftly along. Your second choice is my favourite Alfred Hitchcock film, and the only one he ever made for MGM, 1959 spy thriller, North by Northwest, written by Ernest Lehman, one of the most critically and commercially successful screenwriters in Hollywood history, and I guess starring Cary Grant, would you say, at his peak of his charismatic powers? And as the ad executive mistaken for a US agent. Fun fact, the iconic scene where the crop duster is chasing and shooting Thornhill was filmed with a real airplane, while the plane crashing into the fuel truck was done using large models of both the truck and the plane. But tell me, why did North by Northwest leave such an indelible mark on 12-year-olds, Stephen?
Okay, well, at this time, my parents belonged to a country club outside of Philadelphia called the Ardley Country Club, where there were, one of the members of the club was an actor named Mickey Shaughnessy. He was an actor in a lot of American movies. And I guess he was I guess he lived in New Jersey at the time, and it was right over the bridge, this country club. Mm-hmm. And he had the resources, I guess with his Hollywood connections, that they would show current movies at the country club on an outdoor screen, like a drive-in movie theater. Mm-hmm. This is a regular thing on the weekends. They would show current motion pictures, which was kind of a treat. So this one weekend, it was North by Northwest, which was a current movie, and we're seeing a motion picture screen. Now, at this time, I was a very, very precocious reader. I remember startling I'm told, I startled my parents once when I was like maybe 3 or 4. I started reading the billboards on the highway aloud, and then the cereal box. I somehow, even though I guess I had storybooks, somehow it's been proven that children sometimes learn to read from commercials because the words appear on screen. Now, new, improved.
Got you.
So I was, by the time I was 12, I was reading a lot of fiction. I was reading a lot of mystery and science fiction, and I was, as a sophisticated reader and a film goer, I had gotten to the point now where I could kind of figure out where most of popular entertainment aimed at children was going. You could get me halfway through an episode of The Lone Ranger, and I knew that the bank manager was going to do an inside job. I knew that no matter what the sheriff in the next town is saying, that it must have been an impersonator who pretended to be the Lone Ranger. Or you know what I mean? I could figure out most plots. And also, I'm 12 years old. It's early adolescence. So for some reason, this film landed, first of all, it's a kind of unique privilege. Like, I'm seeing this movie and I'm not in a movie theater. This is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's sexy. I'm noticing that there's sexy parts. And I can't figure out the plot.
Oh, okay.
I'm being constantly surprised. When they go back to the house, and when they go back to the house and nobody knows him, my brain is exploding. So this is why it made an impression on me. I was suddenly aware that there could be stories could be told that would intrigue me. That I could be surprised and fooled and deceived. I thought I was so clever. I could always figure out most of the entertainment I'm watching, So that was a revelation to me, that for the first time, I understood that there's gears and machinery in storytelling. that makes it work, and how everything got explained at the end. And I remember being so puzzled and confused, and they cut to the scene where we're at the CIA, where it's a brilliant piece of expository writing, where they very cleverly let you know what's going on with the conversation with the CIA. It's masterful exposition. So that made a tremendous impression upon me, and even affected the kind of storytelling I was doing, because I was writing my own stories and things like that. It kind of upped my game I used to make my own comic books and my own stories and staple them together and stuff. In fact, if you have a website for your thing, I'm going to send you the article about how I was in Hollywood one week, which was literally published the week after it was. And I will send you something I did when I was in, I guess, 7th grade that got me in trouble. In 7th grade, they said, we want you to write and illustrate a fairy tale in your own style. So I did mine, and they called the school psychiatrist and made my parents come in for a conference meeting. They were so worried about the violent sexual imagery of my version of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, which I'll provide for you.
Well, look, that was our 5 minutes, but please do. I'll put links in the show notes for the podcast. That's easily done. Right then, for your final choice, we're going to jump back to 1941 for Orson Welles' cinematic masterpiece, Citizen Kane, and uncover the meaning of a publishing tycoon's final utterance, Rosebud. Fun fact, the film is full of what we now call cinematic conventions that arguably started with Citizen Kane, such as keeping the foreground, middle ground, and background in sharp, simultaneous focus so the viewers can look anywhere in the frame. And this one fascinated me. Visible ceilings. Wells had the studio build sets with hard cloth ceilings to allow low-angle setups that were previously impossible due to the way that lighting equipment would be in the rafters of a studio. But tell me, why was an 18-year-old Stephen so impressed with Citizen Kane?
Well, this was shown, I think, the first day in the first film course I took.
Okay.
And therefore, it was probably the first film that I became aware of cinematography. In other words, I noticed the cinematography and the shots, whereas every other movie I had ever watched, I'm just caught up in the story. And here I'm looking at the filmmaking for the first time. Now, of course, the instructor, before the film began, said a lot of the conventions that we associate with films, some of them are breakthrough here, or they said maybe they'd been done before, but they all had not been done before in one picture. And the other thing was the deconstructed narrative that you have to put together. So both these things were very fresh to me at that time. Again, being aware of the craftsmanship of the film, the cinematography, and the deconstructed storyline that was not in chronological order. These both revelations to me that deeply affected me in the kind of films I like subsequently and the kind of films I try to write. So it really had a profound effect and cemented my desire to be a filmmaker. Now, when I was a little kid, my desire was to work for Walt Disney Studios and, make cartoons, so that was close. And then when I was in high school, I was one of the first generation of kids running around with a home movie camera and making my own little movies.
Okay.
And I, entered a national contest, and it was I was a runner-up for I did a film. My film was called Cold Figure. It was a parody of the Bond movies, and my character wanted to control all the ice in the world. I even had wrote a parody of the Shirley Bassey song. So I had pretty much decided by the time I was a teenager that I was going into the motion picture business, but I didn't really understand the motion picture art. I mean, the film I entered in the film contest was probably pretty artless. I knew how to edit, I knew how to edit with the little, splice the films and everything So Citizen Kane really opened the door to really looking at the craftsmanship of filmmaking.
Yeah.
And if you look at me here, these books here are not fake. This is actual real books. It's not like the fake.
By the way, I am going through renovations, which is why I've got nothing.
But every book on this shelf here, on these shelves, these are all books about filmmaking.
Okay, wow.
And there's a shelf just as big on the other side of the room.
For the listener's benefit, This is like looking at Barnes and Noble section on film and TV from where I'm looking.
It's quite a, I don't know, there's several hundred volumes here. There's more there. So there isn't one piece of fiction in here.
Yeah.
This is all crafts. And I'm always reading and I'm always learning and I'm constantly buying, even
so somebody of your experience is still always learning about filmmaking and screenwriting.
Absolutely. If a new book comes out or something, like there's a book published past couple of years called Protagonist Journey by a friend of mine that I bought. I have when I first went to work at Universal Studios, Harv Bennett was my first boss, who later on did the Star Trek movies. And like my first day at work, he referred to something as a jump. You've got your characters are doing an emotional jump, and I go, "What's that?" Here. And he opens a closet, and he had dozens of volumes of a book called The Art of Dramatic Writing by Lajos Egri, which is really about playwriting. And he said, "Read this book, you know what a jump is." So that was my introduction to that book. And I have referenced that book so many times since then. This is 1976. This is 50 years ago.
Yeah.
That my copy fell apart, and I have it here somewhere. I have it held together in rubber bands. And in the ensuing 50 years, I bought 2 more copies of that book.
Finish your thought. Go on.
I had bought 2 more copies of that book and had an assistant copy over my underlines. Right, so that I can consult it without it falling apart.
Amazing. I should add as well. I'll send you a link to the interview I did with Scott Myers about the Protagonist Journey, the book that you referenced.
Scott's a friend of mine, and of course I read his book. Not just to give him a royalty, because I know he has things to say. It's also nice that he references one of my films at one point.
Indeed. Well, look. That brings us to the end of 3 movies that changed your life. Thank you for sharing those stories, and thank you for being so generous with explaining the background to the development of Commando. It was really revelatory to me. Thank you.
I'm happy to do it, and happy to set the record straight on some of those things there.
Indeed. Well, it just gives me to say thank you very much for giving us your time on the Britflix podcast.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Hey, Bandit, me and Fred's got a question.
What do you and Fred want?
How come we doing this?
Well, why not?
Well, they said it couldn't be done.
Well, that's the reason, son.
3 movies that have changed your life.
How long have you been a robber?
4'1".
Good Lord. Jolly good. 4'1".
Yes.
Well, that is a long time.
3 movies that have changed your life.
John, I want this material burned. All of it.